Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. And today I want to get into a topic that I strongly believe in, primarily because I exercise the tools pertaining to this particular topic on myself, just in my everyday life. I know that these tools work, and I know that anyone who really want to make a difference in their life to accomplish certain goals, if you really apply the methodology, it can work for you too. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about operant conditioning, positive reinforcement. Before I get into that, I want to start off by just kind of giving you a little background on why I decided on the field of psychology. If you don't know, I have a bachelor's in psychology. I got my degree late in life. I did go to college right out of high school. Unfortunately, that wasn't um, something that I was successful in at that time in my life, primarily because I had a lot of distractions and there were some things that were going on with me that just prevented me from being able to focus on continuing with my education. I always said that at some point I would go back to college. I just wasn't really sure when. At some point I did say to myself, maybe I shouldn't go back to college, primarily because I had to figure out exactly what I wanted to go to college for. So going back to high school graduation, my dream had always been to become an OBGYN. My thought was I want to deliver babies. I want to take care of moms. I wanted to just be hands-on with bringing life into this world. And when I tell you that was a dream of mine for a very, very long time, I'm not kidding. I mean, I was a very little girl when I first started talking about what I wanted to be. And I know that we all have gotten that question, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And so for me, the weird thing is I don't know of anything that happened in my upbringing that steered me in that direction. Like, I don't ever remember being around a bunch of babies. I don't ever remember seeing anybody have a baby. I don't have a recollection of those things. And then in my mind, especially at the age that I was when I first just decided that I wanted to do this, and I didn't know what it was called. I just knew that I wanted to be the person who took the baby out. I just wanted to be the person who helped the mom have a baby. And I don't even understand, now that I'm thinking about it, how I even knew that the baby came out of the mom. Isn't that weird how we learn things but we're not sure how we learn them? So anyway, all of this was in my mind as a little girl, because I thought, when people start families, that it was just really supposed to be a happy time. It just seems like every time I became aware that, like, I have a new cousin, or something like that, or mommy's friend or somebody's friend, they have a little girl, a little boy, and this person wasn't there before. Now all of a sudden they're here, and everybody always seemed to be so happy. So at any rate, in my mind, that's what I wanted to be. So straight up through, and let me go back for a second, because I told a story about, like, when I was in high school, I was considered an average student. Again, I don't think I was average because I didn't have the potential to be more. I just feel like I didn't have the resources or was connected to the right people to help me when I needed the help. So anyway, um, even in high school, in my mind, when I graduate high school, I'm going to college and I'm gonna be a doctor. But I wasn't preparing myself. I wasn't taking the right classes. I wasn't participating in the right programs. I wasn't trying to go to, like, because we have what's called High School for Health Professions here in Houston. I wasn't asking to go to those places, even though I knew that, like, hindsight, I didn't know that then, but I knew, like, later on, I didn't have what I needed to start because I didn't prepare when I was in high school. Not like now, because like my daughter graduated with a whole semester of college credit. So by the time she went to college, after the first semester, she was classified as a sophomore. So anyway, I wasn't preparing out of high school. I did go to Texas Southern University here in Houston. I was doing pre-med. Basically, I was doing all my general education classes and everything, but with the anticipation that I will be preparing for the pre-medical program. If I'm not mistaken, I think by your junior year or the second semester of your sophomore year in college, that you start actually taking like degree specific classes. So you get all your general education classes out of the way. I went to Texas Southern University, and I graduated in '87. Went the first semester. By the time I started the second semester, and this is no secret except to the people who don't know me, and I'm not ashamed of it. It's just kind of what happened to me in my life. By the second semester of college, I found myself pregnant. I was living on my own. I wasn't on college campus. I was actually in an apartment. I was working, and I was going to school. But the problem was, in February of '88, I had a really bad miscarriage and I almost died. So I lost a lot of blood. I had to have blood transfusion. I didn't know any of this until years later, after I was married and I requested my medical records from the military hospital here in Houston. So that was one of the things that happened to me. And because of the fact that I had missed so much school due to the miscarriage, and now even before the miscarriage, I had a really bad pregnancy. Had morning sickness all day long. I was always dizzy. I was just very, very ill. And then eventually I lost the baby. So I missed so much class that they put me on academic probation, and I basically initially didn't fail the classes. They gave me incompletes, which would have given me an opportunity, had I gone to take those classes that I was getting an incomplete in during the summer. Then I would have been able to get get off of academic probation, get those grades up, and actually have a full year of college under my belt. Prior to the summer, I was scheduled to move to San Diego, California. That story within itself is a very long story. I have another video where I talk about learning who my father is. But I was scheduled to leave and move to San Diego, and got some very disturbing news. Okay. I still wound up going to San Diego because I had my plane ticket. I was going to be trying to go to San Diego State University because I wanted to try to, finish getting my education and everything. And I had all of these plans, that was going to happen. But then this news came, and in my mind, I still needed to move forward, because the move wasn't just about the person that I was moving there to be with. It was about me trying to get a hold of my life after everything I had just gone through. And then I get slammed with this bad news, and now my mind is reeling mentally, emotionally. I'm all over the place. I can't really make good decisions. I'm like spiraling. So I went ahead and I moved to San Diego. There I went through so much emotional and no physical, but emotional and mental abuse, verbally being abused. And I wound up moving out of the home of the person that I was staying with. So I found myself, I still had my stepdad who raised me was retired Navy. So I had my military ID. So I found myself looking for a job. I did start going to school, but I wound up dropping out because now I have no place to live. I'm on the street, and I'm actually using like credit cards that I had got approved for with these high limits and stuff, and it was supposed to be for school. I'm using the credit cards to stay in hotels here, or little motels. Motel here, motel there. They always had like a little motel on the military base. And anybody who know anything about the military in San Diego, is 32nd Street is where I was hanging out. So I occupied my time between working and going to the base. So that way I didn't have to stay like anywhere for too long, because when I wasn't working, I was on the base. I was in the clubs, I was in the gym, I was in the bowling alley. I was all over the military base because that was a safe space for me, because I was always by myself. So anyway, fast forward to I was in San Diego. I was born in Oakland, California. Okay, so I called my grandmother and I told her, you know, what was going on and everything. And she said, well, Toni, it don't make any sense for you to go back to Houston. You right here in California, just come on to Oakland. So I left there, left San Diego, went to Oakland, moved in with my grandmother. That was my safe space. My grandmother was the love of my life. This woman, she loved on me and nurtured me in ways that nobody else ever could. Nobody. And my grandmother always looked out for me. My grandmother always looked out for all of her grandchildren. She had 8 kids, and her kids had kids, and we just have a big family. So I got there in Oakland, hanging out at the club one night. That's when I met my husband. We got married. The rest is history. So I'm not going to get into all of that. But the way that my mind functions is I never want to stay anywhere for too long because I don't want to be a burden on anybody. So what I wound up doing was, and what does all of this have to do with operant conditioning, positive reinforcement? We'll get there, and it might be more than one part video because it's a lot of information. So anyway, I'm in Oakland, and I worked at a plasmapheresis center in San Diego. So what I did was I started looking for facilities like that because I already had that experience, and I'm thinking it'd be easier for me to get a job. And it was. I wound up getting a job at the blood bank of the Alameda Contra Costa Medical Association. So I worked there, and then eventually, you know, I was saving up my money and stuff, and eventually I wound up getting my apartment. My apartment was 2 blocks from my job, and I lived like real close to Berkeley, which was like a little college area, whatever. So I walked back and forth to work. Eventually, as my life moved on, here I am, young, married, don't have any kids yet. My husband and I didn't have any kids until, like, we had been married for 5 years before I had my son. Still had several miscarriages, not really sure why my body is not responding to being pregnant. But thinking about school, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. So I'm going to speed you up because there's a lot that happened in between there that has nothing to do with what I want to talk about. But now here we are. I'm back here in Houston. My stepdad who raised me, I never called him my stepdad. That's my daddy. Okay. He's always been my dad. Love him. Love him. Unfortunately, we lost him. But he is the reason that I wound up going back to college, because again, I had been searching for years, trying to figure out, I didn't want to just go back. I wanted to go back with a purpose. So my father has always been this tall, strong, burly man, okay? Retired police force, retired military, Baptist minister. He's always been a force to be reckoned with. He started getting sick. And in my mind, because at this point, I'm very health conscious. I'm, you know, exercising, doing all of this stuff. I noticed his health was deteriorating. My father, when he had a really bad episode, we didn't know what was wrong with him. He was diagnosed already. We knew diabetic. He was hypertensive. He had all these things going on with him. Then we found out he had Parkinson's. We found out he had prostate cancer. He was just getting very ill. So before all the other stuff started happening to him, he had a really bad episode where his sugar just like spiked super high, you know, and he wound up going to the hospital, and the doctors called him a miracle because they said with his sugar being so high, he should have died. He should have died like almost immediately, but he survived. He was delusional. He was walking up and down the hall. He was constantly yanking out his catheter. He was yanking out his IV and all that kind of stuff. And they got him stabilized. They discharged him. And then he got his sugar spiked again, and he went back in the hospital. Well, by this point, me and my sister was like, y'all are not releasing him till we figure out what the heck is going on. Well, because of his sugar being so high, his kidneys are shot. Then next thing you know, we got all this other stuff going on. And so in my mind, I said, I have to figure out a way to help my father live. I have to figure out a way to help him live and live a productive life. So because of the fact that I was already, I always cooked. But I started being more conscious of what I was cooking and how I was cooking and things like that. So I think, I can go to school to be a nutritionist, because being a nutritionist, whatever I learned, and then I started getting sick too. That was the other thing, okay? So now you got two people starting to have health issues. And in my mind, I'm going to heal my body, and I'm going to help him heal his body, and we're going to be stronger together. And I told him this, and I was all excited, and this is what we're going to do and everything. And so I actually enrolled in Houston Community College. And the idea was for me to become a nutritionist, and I wanted to focus on diabetic nutrition, and I wanted to focus on gerontology, not just nutrition, but nutrition for the older community, or what they call them, the senior community. So my mind was sharp, and I was ready to go. So during the time that I was taking my classes to be a nutritionist, we had to take a course that dealt with like social services and stuff like that. And I had talked to the teacher that was going to be the professor that was going to be teaching the class, and I was asking her questions about how all of this kind of tied in together. So she started talking to me about this major human services. So I was like, well, what is that? So she explained to me human services. It touches on so much, but it's basically putting you in a position to advocate for someone. So I'm like, well, that's what I need, because when he needs, to have certain treatments, when he needs to have certain tests done, when he needs to talk to a social worker, when he needs to do this, that, and the other, I can advocate for my dad if I had the knowledge of how to go about doing it. Because my father, being in the military, being affected by Agent Orange and all this other kind of stuff, he didn't qualify financially for a lot of the services that was out there, including having somebody come to his home. That's a whole nother issue, because we wind up trusting somebody that we knew from church, and this fool stole his checks and credit cards and was out there just balling out of control. So his identity got stolen, and he stopped trusting people. And that was very difficult for him, because he's in a situation now where he can't do for himself. Like, he can't defend himself against things and people and stuff. And I have my family, and I'm working and everything. And so my thing is, I need to be able to help my dad. So again, here I am, in the midst of me doing nutrition, taking the classes for nutrition, I discover human services, and I'm thinking, well, this is more focused on what I need to do. Yes, I'll get the nutrition part of it too, but I'll also be able to help him because I can advocate on his behalf. So then, during me doing my human services, I had to take an intro to psych class. So in the intro to psych class, I was talking again to the professor, because I'm like trying to figure out how all of this stuff is connected, right? So I was talking to the professor, and the more I talked to the professor, I was like, this is very interesting. So I'm still going for human services. I'm at home, and my nephew calls, and he says, Auntie, Granddad is gone. He's dead. I was like, what? So what happened was, my father, let me back up real quick. Every Sunday about 1 o'clock, my husband, and my kids, we got into a routine, because I wanted my kids to really, have a connection with my dad. They already did, but I wanted them to spend more time with him, because he was just getting sicker and sicker. And so every Sunday at 1 o'clock, we would go over. Especially like during football season, me and my dad and my husband be screaming at the TV. We Pittsburgh Steelers family, okay? So we be screaming at the TV. If we're not together and the game is on, like they played on Monday or whatever, me and my dad would be calling each other back and forth. Did you see that? Did you see that? We just had a connection. And sometimes my husband, after work, because he had to pass my dad's neighborhood, would stop in and just hang out with him, change light bulbs, run errands, whatever my dad needed. So this particular Sunday, we were scheduled to be there. Oh, the other thing was I would pick up his laundry, drop off his clean laundry. I would meal prep for him, so I would be bringing all his food over, and my son would take out the trash and help my husband with any chores around the house. And my daughter would clean up. She cleaned the kitchen, bathroom, his room, and all that kind of stuff. Me, I would go get his Metro Lift tickets. I would go get his medicine. You know, I would get his groceries. I would be doing the running around while they taking care of the house. So again, you know, we're scheduled because I got food, you know, in the refrigerator, packed up, ready to go. Got his clothes washed and ready to go. And it was supposed to be 1 o'clock again that we would be at the house doing our normal routine. Well, before I got a chance to do that, like I said, my phone rang, and my nephew, my sister's son, told me that my dad was gone. And I'm trying to figure out what the heck is happening. So we jump in the car, we get over to the house, and my sister's outside bawling out of control. And people are just, all of our neighbors are just standing around like in disbelief. My uncle had made it, and I got in the house, and let me tell you, it looked like a crime scene. My father was home by himself. Some kind of way, he slipped in the bathroom. He had a dialysis port. You know, I told you his kidneys were shot, so he had started going to dialysis, I think like 3 times a week. His dialysis port broke. He managed to get a belt around his arm. He wasn't walking, he was in a wheelchair. So he managed to get a belt around his arm, but he wasn't strong enough to pull it tight enough to make a tourniquet to get the bleeding to slow down. He managed to wheel himself from the bathroom through the kitchen to the living room to the phone, called 911, got out of his wheelchair, crawled over to the door, unlocked the door, and that's where they found him. All of this, what does all of this have to do with operant conditioning, positive reinforcement? When I lost my dad that day, I lost my purpose for going to school. Forget about me and all my health issues and everything that was going on. And I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do at that point. Going back to school was the furthest thing from my mind. And then I had a thought. I remember the conversation that I had with my dad, and he talked about being proud of me. He talked about just things that were going on, and his words of encouragement stuck with me for a really long time. Then I had a conversation with the professor in the intro to psych class and talked to him about just I'm telling him snippets of the story that I'm telling you. And I'm trying to decide if I'm going to finish with this human services degree, if I'm going to quit school, what am I going to do? And I couldn't stop thinking about my dad. So I said, he would be disappointed if I stopped. He would be disappointed if I stopped. So I have to figure out what I want to do. So I decided at that point, after having this very in-depth conversation with my professor, that once again I was going to change my degree. When I decided to change my degree to psychology, I realized that I had wasted so much time and I had taken so many classes that I no longer needed, that I didn't need. But I also knew that I wasn't going to be able to get what I needed at the Houston Community College. I needed to go to a college or university, 4-year college or university. So I decided to do some looking around, and it had to be online because I'm working full time. My daughter had started college. I had, again, health issues going on. Wasn't really sure what was going to happen. But I gambled on myself. I enrolled in the University of Texas. All of my classes were online. And I stuck with it. Not only did I stick with it, I took accelerated courses where every 6 weeks they crammed all of what we had to do for those classes in a 6-week period. So every 6 weeks I had another set of classes to take. One particular year I decided to go during the summer, so I went the entire year. I was exhausted. Okay, the camera cut off because the battery died. But I was exhausted, but I got through it, and I was so proud of myself for sticking with it. And I just said to myself, I cried because I just felt like he would be so proud of me. And what all of this has to do with operant conditioning and positive reinforcement, this is the beginning of the conversation surrounding that. And there were times when I struggled, and I mean, it had to do with like my statistics class, because I told you I wasn't good in math and all that stuff in school, but I had to take, because I majored in psychology and minored in sociology, I had to take psychological statistics and sociological statistics. I had to take statistics for both. But by the time I had to take the sociological statistics, I was okay because I had figured out how to retain the information for the psychological statistics. So those times when I struggled with, I had one class I know for sure, it was so boring, and there was a lot of reading. I struggled so bad. But I said to myself, if I can just figure out a way to motivate myself just to get through it, I'll be okay. So let's start off with saying, what is operant conditioning? It is the voluntary behavior modification with anticipation of receiving a reward. So in my mind, yes, this is boring, but if I can get through it, I'm going to treat myself to this. If I get a good grade on this test, then I'm going to treat myself to that. This is how I managed to get through the very rough times that I went through trying to finish school. Keep in mind, I'm working full time. I got things going on with my kids. My husband still needs attention. I still have to cook, clean, errands, laundry, all that kind of stuff, all while taking accelerated classes to try to hurry up and get through and get this degree. So I struggled. And on top of that, I eventually at some point, I had surgery. I had a bariatric surgery, and had to recover. I mean, it was just a lot going on. So I use positive reinforcement and operant conditioning in order for me to help myself be motivated through the hard times. So some of the things that I really enjoyed, like they're closing now, but it's a dollar store, and I can't, 99-cent only store. I used to love going in there because I would find things that I didn't find anywhere else. I enjoyed going to the Target dollar spot. I enjoyed going to get goodies out of Whole Foods because they had the best falafel, right? I enjoyed going to, it's a place called Tofu Sansan. It's a vegetarian, it's a restaurant / grocery store. So all of these things that I enjoy doing, I used as rewards for myself. And it's not to say that I couldn't just go whenever I wanted to, but I said to myself I wouldn't go until I earned it. So when I wanted to go on a Saturday while I was out running my errands, stop by the 99-cent only store, to stop by the Target dollar stop, or to go to Starbucks and get me a caramel frappuccino, or if I wanted to do any of that stuff, I said to myself, I am not allowing myself to do any of that stuff unless I earned it. So the more I studied, the more I read, the more I became motivated to to like get the most bang for my buck when it came to, you know, my grades and my exams. And I had notebooks upon notebooks upon notebooks. And the way that my brain works is, now when you're typing, that's repetitive motion. That type of behavior for me does not stick. So I wasn't typing out my notes. It's information tends to stick in my head better when I write it. And then when I write it, I can remember what color the paper was, what kind of ink pen I used, where on the paper I wrote a particular note, things like that. So I paired that with highlighters and colored pens. I went to the store, and that was another thing. Because of the fact that I needed these tools for school, I also used them as rewards. Because one of the things that, like when I went to the 99-cent only or to Target Dollar Spot, they always had like really cute notepads and colorful pens to write with and things like this. So even though it was things that I needed to help me study and get good grades, I used them as motivation. I couldn't wait to go, because now I wanted to go see what kind of, you know, fancy pens they had for little or nothing, or, you know, what was the new color marker highlighter that I could find. And I always made sure that my vocabulary words were written in black ink, but they were highlighted in a certain color. My specific like subjects when I was preparing for a test, it was just certain things. I categorized everything, and everything was color coded. And that is how I took my notes when I was preparing to take an exam. And so I remember one time my husband said, "You got all this stuff in the book. Why don't you just highlight it in a book?" I said, "Because I'm not going to remember it if I just highlight it in a book. But if I write it down on a piece of paper, I'm going to remember, you know, at least where that note is, and I can refer back to it when I'm studying for the test." He said, "Yeah, but you're writing down everything that you're reading." I said, "Not everything. And sometimes what I read, I summarized it or did shorthand." So I knew it had more detailed information in the book, but my notes were more important because I picked out the things that I needed to stick out in my mind. So that is how how operant conditioning and positive reinforcement helped me. And that is just one way, because I also used it when it came to diet and nutrition. I use it even now, because at one point in my life before my surgery, I was up to 15 different medications. Sometimes I just get sick of swallowing pills. But the thing of it is, I know that I have to, because I have soft tissue and nerve damage. I have a condition called myofascial syndrome, sciatica, facet joint syndrome. I have arthritis. At one point I developed a bursitis. I even had and I told y'all this once before, gout. And it was like, what the heck is going on? But because of the fact that I have all these things going on with me, if I don't take my medicine, especially my pain medicine, I do get to a point where I can't even walk. I'm dragging my leg. I'm dragging my limbs. And so I constantly talk to myself about being responsible, because I can't work. I can't, you know, I'm no good to anybody if I can't move, if I'm not mobile. Okay. I can't drive because it hurts to push down on the gas pedal. So I have to make sure that I keep my medicines. I am one of the things, and I've mentioned this a couple times before, supposed to be doing the research to find out how to transition from medication to natural supplements to treat the things that are going on with me, because I really do want to get off of the prescription medication. I know there has to be a way. I just don't know what that is yet. I would love to meet with like an herbalist or something like that to try to learn more about the natural supplements for me to take. Also figuring out how to treat my condition through diet as well. But yeah, so, I'm constantly using this tool because I'm human. Like everybody else, I face challenges in my life. I have trouble with not making decisions, but like I said again, sometimes you get tired of certain things and it just wears on you and you just need a break. There are some things I can't take a break from, and I know that, but sometimes I still do. I just don't want to take all the pills. And I'm not on 15 different medications, but because of the fact that I am a bariatric patient, I'm always going to have to take multivitamins. I'm always going to have to take my vitamin D. I'm always going to have to take my estrogen because I don't have my girly parts no more. I take my pain medicine because that's the only way I can move around. Outside of that, I don't have any other medications that I take. Oh, my blood pressure. I'm not diabetic anymore. There are just a lot of things that happened with my surgery that went away. Unfortunately, and I told this story too before, they tried to wean me off my blood pressure medicine and found out that I don't have learned hypertension. I have genetic hypertension, which basically means that I have to take the medicine because it's in my genes. It's not, I didn't become hypertensive because I had a bad diet or I wasn't exercising and things like that. So we did try weaning me off the blood pressure medicine, and my blood pressure spiked like nobody's business. So not only did they put me back on blood pressure medicine, I'm actually on a combo pill, and they added a third medication. So yeah, there's, some things that transpired also about 6 months in on the pandemic. I'm working on that. And part of that was because I got to a point where I couldn't turn my brain off, and I needed something to help me sleep. I don't want to be physically, emotionally, or mentally dependent on anything to help me get the rest that I need. So now I am working on a process and it will include operant conditioning and positive reinforcement in order for me to transition off of or out of the situation that I'm in with this particular habit. So anyway, I just wanted to come to you today and just kind of do kind of an intro. I will be mentioning operant conditioning and positive reinforcement going forward, because as I no longer label myself as a health and wellness advocate. I did mention that I am moving forward at this point as a lifestyle modification coach. And with that being said, operant conditioning and positive reinforcement will be a base for my that'll be the basis for my approach in helping my clients transition to a better lifestyle. So anyway, I just want to come on and just kind of chit chat with you guys, give you a little backstory on how I got to making this decision and how that tied into my background and my history. If you've been rocking with me for a while, I sure do appreciate it. Thank you so much for sticking around. Please be sure to go ahead and leave me a comment. Again, if you just slide through, catch me on the replay, that's fine. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining us. Please go ahead and subscribe and hit that like button. Make sure you turn notification bell to all so that you don't miss any of my uploads. I do have membership back on my channel. I'm going to have some exclusive lifestyle modification content that will be there for members only. I am going to start posting different snippets on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, doing the reels and the shorts and all that good old stuff. Because I want to bring more awareness about the decision that I've chosen to make in changing some things up for my business, and this is my business. I haven't started taking clients yet because I'm still getting my material and everything together. I want to make sure that I have everything covered and there aren't any gaps in what I need to do before I actually start taking on clients. But if you think you might be interested in my services, please keep checking in with me on the channel. You can even contact me. You want to message me on Instagram or message me on Facebook, feel free to do so. Just let me know that you're interested in services, and as soon as I'm ready to go, then I'll be happy to reach out to you and let you know that we're ready to go ahead and start scheduling our discovery call. So that's gonna do it for this particular video. Y'all stay tuned for the next series that will be coming out. We did the Let the Healing Take Hold series, and y'all, by the time you see this video, you wouldn't have seen all of the parts because there's 5 parts and they're only released on Saturdays. But I wanted to mention that the next leg of the series is going to be called And the Healing Continues. Okay, y'all take care.
If you're not already a member of the Fetch fam, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and download that app, scan my QR code, and get to scanning those receipts. You might as well take advantage of it. You're already spending the money. The receipts translates into points, the points translates into cash, and you can redeem that cash via store card or cash card, or you can donate to charity. Well, all right, we're going to go ahead and get out of here, but you know we don't do so without saying, love yourself, love somebody else, and until next time, y'all take care. Bye.